Shalom, welcome to the Jewish View. My name is Rabbi Nachman Simon with the Chabad of Damer, together with my co-host Mark Ronich of jbiztechvalley.com and Statewide News. And as you can see as I hold it up, the columnist for the Jewish Press.
And I'm very proud to have the opportunity to write a column called Albany Beat. And I talk about how government relates to the Jewish community, or doesn't, as the case may be. But today we're taking a little break from the government. We're going to talk about the arts. We love talking about the arts on the Jewish View. A lot of the audience supports Park Playhouse and also the Palace Theater. So we brought the guy who is in charge of both, Owen Smith. So welcome to the Jewish View.
Owen, very good.
Thank you to you both.
The Jewish people are always, I think, very highly representative in supporting the arts.
I've certainly seen that throughout my whole career. By all means, when it comes to audience participation, to donors, the community is certainly very, very active.
Yeah, and the woman who founded Park Playhouse, Mimi Scott.
Who still comes every year. Every year.
Up from Florida?
She does. And she maintains a residence in New York City still to this day. And Mimi's continued to write, and in her later years has actually found a lot of joy in being a visual artist too. She's been working not only in oil but also in some stained glass. But she, Park Playhouse, which she founded with her late husband Barry, was just such a passion to her. And when I came on board as the producing artistic director back in 2010, I heard from her almost immediately. And she was there that summer. She liked what she saw. She was glad that we were sort of maintaining the tradition. Keeping it free was the most important thing to her, providing access to people in the community, and she's been there every year since.
Well, once you talk about free, so who is funding? I mean, nothing's ever free.
Unfortunately, that's our saying, right? I mean, free theater isn't free. Unfortunately, there's a heavy price tag with that. But our funding is essentially a mixture of corporate foundation and individual giving. For a long time, there had been a fairly substantial municipal contribution to Park Playhouse's operations.
About how much?
Well, when things first started, it was about $75,000. At the time that I came on board, it was about $55,000. Some of the in-kind support the city had provided in terms of sound and lights had changed over the years. But unfortunately, during the economic downturn, the City Arts Grant program went away. Luckily, Mayor Sheehan has put a new program in place, the Mayor's Fund for the Capital City, that is a competitive grant cycle through the Community Foundation. But that's a new program.
Oh, so there is the Mayor's Fund here?
There is. But it's a sort of a...
Because in New York City, Mayor Bloomberg started that in New York City. And that's for people who feel they're not paying enough in taxes here, that they want to give even more so that they could give to funding what the city really can.
This is like that. This is not compulsory. It is certainly a volunteer.
How much money comes in?
That's a new fund, so I'm not sure.
Really?
It's only their first year of operation. But I have to say that you're glad to see that. You're glad to see a mayor putting focus on arts and the fact that they're an economic driver and really just a cultural necessity in a community. So I've been happy to see that's come about. That's not something that we've yet been a beneficiary of, but certainly something we look forward to.
I always say that because the society obviously needs laws and policemen, firemen, all the basic structure, but society always needs the arts, and I think that's very important we talk about with a lot of times with children and getting to know about theater and music, and that's the first thing they cut out.
It's unfortunate.
And it just feels, well, you need math. Well, I agree, you need the math and science, of course.
Sure.
But, it's just something a lot of people have the attitude it's periphery and it's not needed, and I just think it is an essential part of it.
I think it is, Rabbi, and I think that, the mistake that people make is that they think that arts are all about culture, and they are to a certain extent, but they're also about communication, and a big part of what we do is arts education through Park Playhouse, and we've been lucky enough through our relationship with the Palace Theater to now have some spaces to work in, some studio spaces to host classes all year round, and we're hosting classes for kids that have all sorts of experience in the arts, but also kids who have never had a performing arts experience in their life, and to watch these kids walk in the door, not want to look anyone in the eye, be afraid to communicate with their peers, let alone those that are older than them, and leave the class after a 10-week session with just that little bit of confidence that allows them to connect outside themselves, to connect with people. That's what the arts are all about, and that's why it shouldn't be on the periphery. But you're absolutely right. Unfortunately, on a scholastic level, these are often the first things to get cut.
Talk about education. Is Shirley Ahrensberg still the director of education?
She is, and she has been since I
She's
was
a member of the Jewish community.
She is, yeah. Shirley attends Congregation Beth Emeth. Shirley has been the director of education for over 20 years. When I was a young man, I was a student in Park Playhouse too, the teen
So you're
youth
from
program.
Albany?
I am, yeah, Delmar. I grew up in Delmar.
Good city.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, and where I continue to reside with my wife Julie, who also was a student in the Park Playhouse 2 program when we were kids. So I've known Shirley for the better part of almost 25 years now. And she still is very active in our programming.
Which
absolutely.
is the better part of your life.
That's right. That's right. Yes, yeah.
Because you're not much older than 25.
Maybe not quite 25, but close. Yeah. So yeah, she's very active, and Shirley actually just finished. She hasn't slowed down at all. We just finished a school tour. One of the things that we do now that's new to Park Playhouse is we take shows out into schools in the capital area, and we just did a production of A Year with Frog and Toad, which is based on the sort of classic stories that were created by Arnold Lobel. About a frog and a toad who are friends and learn all sorts of lessons and spending their seasons together. And it was a lovely show that we took out into the schools that Shirley addressed the children before every performance.
That's wonderful. So what's your budget now? What do you need in terms of an annual budget to continue on what's your goal, fundraising goal?
Well, for Park
Aside
Playhouse,
from as much as possible.
Sure. I mean, Park Playhouse, our overall annual operating budget is about $500,000, which is a good deal larger than it was 6 years ago. So we've certainly seen some growth.
That's 2 months of production.
Well, that's 2 months of production, plus all of now the year-round arts education programming that we're doing is included in there, and certainly overhead, of course, our administrative salaries and things like that. But
You get paid?
believe it or not, a little bit.
You get
bit.
paid?
I do get paid.
In the arts?
Yes.
It's like unheard of.
You can make a living in the arts. It's a wonderful thing. But a significant majority of that, about 65% of that is contributed. And we're lucky that we have a lot of really wonderful corporate partners.
I see that those corporate logos keep expanding every year.
We try to make them expand. We try to tastefully make them expand, but nonetheless, we do. We like to get creative about ways that we can bring on new corporate partners. Albany Medical Center has been doing a lot of work, obviously, in the Park South community, and they saw us as an asset, certainly, to their development of that neighborhood.
BBL
Construction. Of course, we see them as an asset. So Albany Med's been our single biggest sponsor for the last 5 years. BBL Construction on that project, another major partner, and then the Nigro companies. But then also, getting creative and finding ways to partner with other organizations. GE has the wonderful Kids in Free program in the capital region, and we've been lucky to be a beneficiary of that. So, our production of Oliver, kids could come for free. Our production of Shrek, the musical, kids could come for free. And of course, all of the seating is free, but we do have our reserved seats down front. This allowed kids to sit down in that section and get the best seat in the house and be able to watch the show.
And how much are the seats because the elderly like to sit down there?
They do, and we do our best to make those seats. If someone is incapable of walking the couple of steps to even just to get to the first level of the amphitheater, we don't want them to have to pay for a seat. So we have a pretty generous policy when it comes to complimentary seating for those who need accessible seating.
And the ushers know that.
They do. Oh yeah, they do. And our box office knows it too. It's important to us. It's the heart of the mission. So, but it's interesting, you really have to be careful with the pricing on those reserved seats. It's, we don't make a lot of money on them, but it's a significant portion of our revenue. You want people to buy them.
So how much?
We cap them at $16 and $18 on the side section or in the center section. The last couple of years, we've done some special table seats down towards the front of the stage where there's bar service and things like that. Those we can charge, $20, $22 for.
And you get them?
We do. We do. Those we sell out because it's an interesting experience. To sit at a table just in front of the stage and have an actor come out and serve you a drink. That's kind of cool, But if you charge too much more than that, when there's a couple of thousand free seats sitting behind you, people are just going to grab a blanket and head up. So,
that's right.
But a lot of folks do like to sit down on the ground level.
Who decides? Is that your decision of what's, it's one play per summer, isn't it?
Well, actually, in the last couple of years, it's been 2, and now it's even really turning into 3. So as the artistic director, it's ultimately my choice, but I make that choice in close discussion with our board of directors, and they sort of ratify what I propose as a season. And of course, that's important because for me, those folks who are serving on our board are representative of our audience population. So if they see a season and they think, yeah, you know, that's not really something we think we'd be interested in, that suggests to me that it's going to be a tough sell. And we've taken some risks in the last couple of years, and we've gone a bit off the beaten path from what we've done in the past. You know, a couple of years ago, we did a show called Hands on a Hard Body, which was a brand new musical. It had only done a very, very short run on Broadway, but it's a really experimental.
And it's about holding
show.
onto a car.
Exactly right.
Okay.
You know,
I just want you to know it's
keeping your hand on a truck. Right. Yes. It sounds like it sounds worse than it is, but
no, it's very innocent.
Folks keeping their hands on a pickup truck, and the last one to take their hand off wins.
Right.
You would never think that would make for much of a musical, but it really is a beautiful story. And it was Trey Anastasio, the front man of the band Fish,
Right.
orchestrated just a beautiful score to accompany it. But at the same time, we're still committed to doing really classic musical theater. You know, this past summer we did Singin' in the Rain and The Pajama Game.
And Singing in the Rain's appropriate because it rained a few times.
Yes, we were very lucky. Actually, the year before, Hands on a Hard Body was the show that
Yeah.
previous year, and it rained out. Truly, half of the performances
Really?
were
That
canceled.
many?
Half.
That's terrible.
So that was part of what I got tired of people coming up to me and joking. You know, you should do Singin' in the Rain. I thought, well, you know, we should do Singin' in the Rain. And of course, that one hardly ever rained out. So, except, you know, of course, it rained twice a night when we wanted it
That's
to. That
right.
was an interesting nut to crack, you know, figuring out how to get it to rain and look realistic on stage. It was really neat.
And
But
what was the second one you had?
the second one last year was The Pajama Game, and we've sort of fallen into a pattern where in July we do a show that really highlights professional actors from this community and beyond. Folks that we find in New York City, folks that come from all over the country who are looking for summer work.
Mm-hmm.
And we've been fortunate to have some really, really wonderful people and to watch some really wonderful people
Right.
from our community grow.
Because as you get those wonderful people up from New York City, they inspire the younger folks who you have on the stage who are acting
So
maybe
you do
for
attract
the
a lot of
second
good
or third
people?
time.
You do
So-
attract Broadway.
We've had
actors.
people that have been on Broadway, off Broadway, in films, and one of the really gratifying things is, you know, our August show continues to feature local teens, and you know, again, I was in that program years ago. I'm happy to still have a career in the arts and to be working locally, but some of my peers, people that I grew up with who have gone on to just absolutely amazing careers in the theater. I mean, right now, there are, I think, immediately, right now, there are 3 people performing on Broadway who are former Park Playhouse students.
Really?
And over the course of the last decade, that number is probably more like, you know, 10 or 15 people
Well,
who
you
have
should
been on Broadway.
publicize your alumni list.
Well, you know, we have a where are they now section on our website, but we probably don't put it out there as much as we should
Right,
because it's a real badge of honor for this community to know
It
that there
is.
are kids growing up in the arts here that are going on to such success. And we've had kids not just in the theater world, but also in film and television who have had a really good run of it. And it's you know, it's great for this region to know.
Tell us a little about your story, how you got into the arts.
Well, you know, I grew up really having no connection to the arts whatsoever. My parents, of course, would take us to, you know, theatrical events, symphony events, things like that, but I never really participated in it. Until I was always a soccer player, and I had a series of broken knees that led me to sort of need to find some other activity to busy myself with. And I found I had always been sort of a expressive young man, I guess, and I found my way into a production probably just before high school, and I loved it. I loved it. I just found that I was at home, and I met a whole bunch of new friends that I, you know, had never had before, and immediately, pretty much in high school, knew that I wanted to study that going forward. And my parents, you know, lucky for me, were very supportive of that. And I ended up attending the university at New Paltz, which had a wonderful theater program for both the technical side of things and the acting side. And they really encouraged you to take classes and to gain experience on both sides of the coin, backstage and on stage. And that was wonderful for me because I had really felt that I I liked the idea of the art of directing. And so I was able to try that out in college. And I worked briefly as an actor after college. I was in the national tour of Fiddler on the Roof.
Very good. It's my favorite.
See, there you go, yeah. But I also got to participate in some regional productions and some productions in New York City, and eventually worked with some of my closest friends just on a volunteer project down in New York City, sort of mounting shows in off-Broadway venues, holes in the wall, and some nicer off-Broadway venues, and was working in New York City at a company called Theater for a New Audience in arts administration. I had sort of found that to be able to afford a life as an actor and a director, you really needed to have something else that you were passionate about that could pay the bills. And rather than being a waiter or some other such profession, I found myself drawn to arts administration. And I had always stayed in touch with Park Playhouse. I had directed a couple of shows here over the years during my college years, and after a number of years under the same leader, the board had decided to make a change, and they had made that decision sort of in conjunction with the gentleman who was ready to move on. And at the time, things were sort of rough. I mean, the financial picture was not as good as it had once been back in the late 90s, and they invited me to come up and talk about what I thought might be possible here. And my sense was that we should sort of expand the summer programming, involve the young people more than had been previously done, and then to sort of try to look outside of the summer months and find a more permanent presence, because I think it's hard to succeed just as a seasonal being. I think that there needs to be, you need to be in the people's presence of mind more often than
And that's how you combine the Palace with Park Playhouse.
That's right. So when the city grant program ended, to his credit, Mayor Jennings helped to bring together members of our board and members of the Palace board. The Palace had recently also gone through a transition in management. And brought the members of both boards together to talk about what might be possible in terms of some sort of collaboration. Certainly the Palace has a larger budget and is a more stable organization, but one that didn't have as much of a connection to the community perhaps as Park Playhouse did. Perhaps people had seen it really just as a rental house and weren't aware of the work that the team at the Palace was doing. So we entered into a management services agreement where my salary would be shared between the two organizations, and some of our part-time staff would work back and forth. And our idea was that over time we would be able to develop new programming sort of spearheaded by Park Playhouse but housed at the Palace. And it took about 1.5 years, 2 years, but we finally have seen that over the last year or so really come to fruition. We've had 3 different family-style shows that were produced locally and played at the Palace for several thousand folks that we also now again take out into the schools and put on tour. And now we share a number of different staff members. An arts and education coordinator who helps to coordinate education programs for both organizations. We share a production manager. We share concession management and box office management. So
Cuts down costs.
exactly. For both organizations, it cuts costs. But I think the other thing is that it's really allowed us to also think creatively about what can we do to try to better the entire arts community. And it's worth noting, we've shared, the Palace and the Albany Symphony Orchestra have shared a financial management team for a number of years now. And it's been wildly successful for the two organizations. Again, cutting costs and improving the quality of services.
So now you got the Palace and Albany Symphony, the Palace and Park Playhouse.
Right.
Now maybe the Albany Symphony and Park Playhouse.
Well, you never know. David Allen Miller is a friend and certainly someone that I'm in touch with quite frequently. And
He's been on the show here, yeah.
I'm sure
great,
he's a great guy. He's been around. Next year is his 25th year as the conductor of the symphony.
Another
which is
Beth
really
Emeth member.
That's
right,
correct.
with Shirley. Yeah.
And he
So there's
he and
a
I have kicked around
collaboration, you
ideas.
see,
Could we
there's-
do a concert or something like that? Who knows?
Yeah.
But I think that to have all of these arts groups talking to one another, especially after that last economic downturn that really had been tough on a number of organizations. You see Proctor's and CapRep working together, and the Palace working with these two organizations. I think it was out of necessity that some of this happened. But the upshot is that there's a lot of creative thinking going on. And you look at an event like Wine and Dine for the Arts, which is every January now, that funds all of these different Albany arts organizations and has had just a tremendous impact. It's a good thing to have these organizations in the room talking to each other and working together to better the entire cultural community.
So let me ask you about, in February, you're going to have a play called Freedom Train.
Yeah,
And it's about Harriet Tubman and the Underground Railroad.
correct.
Now, the Underground Railroad was neither underground nor a railroad.
That is
Discuss.
correct. Yeah, that is correct. But it's a harrowing story, and from our perspective, if you can take a musical like that and put it in front of kids, that promotes a different kind of learning, and they absorb the story in a way that
That's Black History Month,
It is.
February. So
It
this
is, and
ties in with Black History
That's
Month.
exactly right. And at the Palace, we always try to have a couple of offerings during the month of February. We've had for years our Black History Month step show, and this is just another addition to that.
Yeah.
So it's great. And then that will be followed up by the third of our arts education series, which is a show in the month of May called Freckle-Faced Strawberry, which is based on a book by the actress Jodie Foster about a young girl who's uncomfortable with her freckles, uncomfortable with her appearance, and of course, and it's about her, getting to be confident in herself and comfortable with herself. So we try as best we can to
Freckles
tie.
goes along with red hair goes along with freckles.
That's right. Yeah, it is.
You over here.
Look at that. These are not age spots. These are freckles.
Well, you got to come see the show.
Okay.
But we try as best we can in some way to tie the shows that we do in the Scholastic series to New York State curriculum standards and to things that we think are positive experiences.
Well, I
for
always
kids.
felt that, and again, Mark and I have almost 300 shows, and we have many arts, like you were saying, and schools, and I always felt that, the hands-on, as you're going to say, like when you teach history, all right, you can read a book and learn about history. Why don't you go up to the Saratoga battlefields and teach the Revolutionary War there? I mean, obviously you can't go all over the United States and the world, but certain things are local, it's the impression that a child has when they see a play instead of just read a book or even read the play is going to be so much deeper.
I
know
think
that
you're
for
absolutely right.
Jewish also, hands-on, not just reading a book, but, Jewish religion is always strong on the books, but just hands-on and, make your own things. You're making the shofar for Rosh Hashanah, feeling it like you're saying, feeling it, doing it. It just gives a better, deeper impression on a child.
There's nothing like a tactile experience. There's nothing like being able to sense. And I think what's amazing is we're living in a world now where technology has made it possible, in a certain sense, for us to be all over the world, to be able to at least see on a screen moving images that of things happening in real time, and there's a real benefit to that. But for me as a theater artist and as someone who really cares about the experience of live performing arts, that is a blessing and a curse, because of course I know that when someone is sitting in front of an actor who's passionately speaking, it's no different than sitting in a congregation or in a church or wherever the case may be and listening to a rabbi or a pastor speak passionately. There is a difference in that human connection. And it's the same thing for actors, for an audience member watching an actor live perform. And so it's important to us to bring kids in because they get that tactile experience. And hopefully then they buy in and they sustain the American theater going forward.
Except for watching the Jewish View, well, at least here they have a percentage.
That's right.
But all right. No, I know what you're saying. It's 100%. There's just see the most simple, like a baseball game.
Right.
You can watch on TV every show. There's 20, games on TV every night. But so why do people spend big bucks to go out there? There's nothing like that.
That's right.
To be really part of it.
So I want to ask you, when are you going to do naming rights for the stage area and the seating and the key bank stage, like we had Times Union Center, we had, you can do, and that'll carry you through 10 years.
Well, it certainly will. There are opportunities like that, Park Playhouse, because of the investment that Albany Medical Center has made in us for the last 4 years. We've called it the Albany Medical Center stage, and we promoted it as that, we announced it as that, and,
How much did they give you that you...
Albany Medical Center was a $35,000 sponsor last year.
That's all it takes to have the stage named after?
That's a pretty good chunk of change by Park Playhouse standards. It really is. It's a very meaningful amount of money to us, and we've been lucky to have it.
It's not even,
for the Palace, though. You look at the kind of money that the Times Union Center drives in terms of their naming rights. Who knows what that price tag would be? But stay tuned. There's been discussion about that.
Well,
And
good.
Interestingly
because they
enough,
should give you more money. Than
well,
that.
when the marquee for the Palace was redesigned back in 2002 and 2003, there was a couple of little light sprigs above the name Palace, above the word Palace, and one of the architects who we spoke to recently, just sort of anecdotally about how things were going in the building and talking about some of the leveling, and they mentioned that had been installed. Those little pieces of light had been installed with the intention of potentially someday popping them out and popping a corporate logo on there. So there's certainly, you have to get creative, because while organizations want to support the arts because it's the right thing to do, it's a good thing, it's good for the community, they want return on their investment, and you can't blame them. They want to have a marketing presence to your audience and to people that are passing by. And for the sake of the Palace, the Department of Transportation estimates that about 12 or so thousand cars pass by that spot every day. That's a significant, you wouldn't think it, but then you stop and you think, well, it's the busiest exit off of 787. So that's certainly an incentive to any company that wants to position themselves publicly as a supporter of the arts.
And it's a beautiful marquee.
It is. It certainly is.
It's the best marquee in the area.
I would think so.
It really is.
I would think so. I mean, it's the way it wraps around.
Nicer than Proctor's. I gotta tell
well,
you.
look.
No, in my view. In my view. You don't have to say anything.
Actually, Proctor's recently did.
I know.
It's a smaller footprint there in terms of the front of the building. We're lucky to be right on the corner.
You're right on the corner. It wraps around, and it just looks so classy.
Yeah.
And it's just phenomenal. And I really was impressed with what they did.
Yeah.
Because if you look right behind the sign, you see the older building and all that. But they really did a nice job with the facade.
They did, and it's remarkable that they packed. And this was, at this point, 13 years ago. It's remarkable that they packed all of this modern technology into something 13 years ago, and something that looks so much like it looked in the 1930s. They redesigned it to look exactly like that. And just last year, we actually replaced every bulb in the building with high-efficiency LED lighting. Through support from National Grid and RISE. We were able to go green. But 4,000 bulbs in that market.
But let me ask you about the Park Playhouse, because who owns that property?
The Washington Park is owned by the city of Albany.
Right.
So we're a special event.
So you pay the city, or
No.
they give it to you for free?
No, the city supports, because we're offering our product free.
But isn't that an in-kind contribution?
Oh, certainly.
So what's the
no doubt
value
about
of that in-kind contribution?
Well, only just recently has the city really gotten serious about renting that space out. I think it would be, if you look at it, we're there for 3 months. It takes almost a month to put it together. I think it would be a significant one, no doubt about it.
So it's
I don't have a price tag on it, but it's a significant.
Now you could have the seating, the free seating brought to you by or made possible by a grant from such and such. You know.
We could, and it's important.
Sealy mattress or something.
That and the stage and the reserve seating. I mean, you could name all of these different things.
You could. So why don't you?
Well, who knows? Maybe the future holds that.
I'm here to
for
help
us,
you.
That's good. I didn't know I was going to get the advice today. I'm
there
glad
you
for
go.
that. You never know. Truly, I think it's a matter of sort of. Again, that's a locale where a lot of people walk through. We try to create signage opportunities for sponsors to make sure that they're visible. But there's certainly something that could be done around that. And I like the idea. We've had in the past sponsors be featured on the T-shirt. We go through an awful lot of T-shirts. People donating that get a T-shirt. The playbill. Someone wants to sponsor the back page. So it's a matter of finding the things that people are going to put eyeballs on, that you can give some return on investment back to your sponsors. But the relationship with the city with Park Playhouse, it's while the city arts granting program may not be around anymore, we're very, very fortunate to have a city that wants a space in the park to be used for the arts.
So what's your fiscal year?
Our fiscal year runs through December, so it's January to December. It makes it easier to account for the bulk of our activity happening right now.
Okay, so so now we're coming up to the end of your fiscal year. Have you made the money that you needed for this year? There's no deficit?
This will be a little bit better than break-even year, and that's what you hope for. You hope for a lot better than break-even, but
in our because you're a not-for-profit.
That's right. The margins are tight.
Not-for-profit, you can make 5% more than break-even.
Right.
I believe that's what it.
Well, and the important thing, of course, is that anything that you do make over and above break-even has to, be put back into the business.
Can't go for salaries.
That's right. No, unfortunately, there's no bonus available to you when you have a surplus year. but we're an organization that has significant capital needs.
Yes.
You know, we've always rented all of the lighting and sound equipment, and only in the last couple of years have we been able to invest in owning some of that, which really makes the process of putting everything up and planning out the season a lot easier. Not only does it reduce costs, but knowing that we have control over when that equipment arrives and the shape that it arrives in, that's important. So
Who do you rent it from now?
right now we work with a company called Creative Stage Lighting, and then we work with a company just out of Clifton Park called Specialized Audio Visual. But we've had vendors of all stripes. I mean, there's a wonderful organization locally called Technical Video
Yes,
Incorporated.
TVI, yeah.
TVI. And TVI, just this past summer, was an in-kind sponsor. They filmed The Singing in the Rain, had a series of short movies in it. They filmed those in their green screen studio free of charge for us, which was a real blessing. And then they actually donated the projector and the screen to show those movies. So, it's, again, getting creative to find ways to reduce your costs and to make the season affordable. So it's
Phenomenal.
wonderful to work with
Keep
them.
up the good work. It
Thank
really,
you.
I'm so impressed with what you've done in the 6 years or 5 years that you're there, and it's just been great. So keep up the good work.
Thank you very
It's
much.
All right,
phenomenal.
excellent. You're doing good work. Keep it rolling and keep it doing
We'll try.
better and do it with good health.
Yes,
Thank you.